Ooh, delivery day. Oh, look at this. This is not a bike box. No, it is a wheel box. Well, a pair of wheels, to be a matter of fact. I have a pair of wheels custom built for this particular bike that I'm currently working on as a repair. Let's review this golden nugget find. If you need to replace a classic wheel set off of your bike or even more current, these guys you might want to check out. Let's review. Hey, welcome back to Annoy Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy, and we're going to talk about wheels. And we're going to talk about how you're going to upgrade your current bike, well, might be an older bike, with today's new products that are coming out. There's been a problem with actually reduction of inventory of late, and that will affect a lot of the older bikes as in repairs as well as upgrades. But before that, let's talk about wheels and the history of those wheels. So back in the day, back in the 90s where I started, well actually late 80s, wheel building was basically a norm of every bike shop. We would put these things together, custom lace them up, tension the spokes, do various combinations of hub, spokes, and rim combinations to basically build the strongest, lightest, more effective, efficient wheel possible. Well, through the interim of decades later, manufacturers have built wheels at our production lines to be a little bit better quality. Therefore, the hand-built wheels of yesterday of every bike shop is now part of the past. But is it? In any case, looking at these particular wheels, old days, we're looking, bigger flanged hubs and so forth, thinner spokes, less spokes, and with rims getting a little bit lighter. Fast forwarding to some of the manufacturer wheels that you may have gotten in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, you're looking at, or the teen 2000s, they've actually built rims that are actually too thin, where it developed a lot of stress cracks. In case in point, this bike that I'm currently working on now has multiple cracks around the rim bed, close to the spoke nipple holes. Therefore, the classic wheels of yesteryear is something to look at. Well, let's get a couple of insights of what Trek has done back in the day of custom build wheels with our buddy John Bradley.
Yeah, like early 2000s, I think a lot of bike shops has dropped it because the manufacturing of the wheels that are coming out of Reynolds or DT or American Classic or even the Bond Trackers were such a higher, like a higher quality coming out of manufacturing that the custom wheel building kind of dropped off because there wasn't that much as a need. And I think a lot of it could have been marketing too, lighter weight carbon rims, whatever the Kool-Aid they were pushing at the time was definitely valid to some level. But you still had to have some knowledge of wheel building or at least replacing spokes. Mm-hmm. Because they would fail sometimes, and then you'd have to get separate, spokes and switch out the tensions and all that. But in any case, so yeah, I thought that was very interesting seeing Matrix. I'm like, whoa, look at that! That put me back in the day because I remember I might even still have like a Matrix 2 box somewhere laying around.
Yeah. Well, interesting. You were talking about the wheels. The first kind of production, high performance production wheels that we used to carry at the old Denver Spoke, because we were a high-end pro shop, was Roval, so Roval. And some of the people out there might be familiar with that because Specialized now owns that brand. But yeah, back in the 80s, Roval was the first. It was like a really high-tension wheel set, and they were somewhat transformative. I mean, they were extremely lightweight, and the high tension allowed, it was a real high-performance wheel. It being kind of more of a better power transfer, from what you're putting into the pedals right through the drivetrain and into the wheel. It would give you a good return. So that was the first thing. So like if you came in to buy a bike, we'd show you. We did carry some Trek frames. We also had DeRosa, Pinarello, Merckx, it was a lot of fun. But we would build up wheels. So we would say, we can build wheels here. I can build your wheels, or here's this Roval set. So that was one of the first ones. So it took a while for the transition from bike shops not, being wheel builders to where they bought pre-built wheels, whether it was at the low end or the high end. So
Oh, that's a good history. I didn't know where they came up with that name. I just know, I mean, Specialized uses it today. So
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
Okay, so we got wheels, and everybody has wheels on their bikes to make everything go round, right? But here lies the problem. Going into the future, a lot of the manufacturers are reducing the quantity of products they're going to be carrying. Therefore, it's going to be a little bit harder to find that rim brake wheel set to go on your classic bike, either a mountain bike, a road bike, gravel bike, cross bike, in between. There eludes the saving grace of Bicycle Wheel Warehouse in California. Well, Bicycle Wheel Warehouse in California actually reached out to me like, hey, we actually can probably provide some good products for you for refurbishing bikes and so forth, where there might be not very good options in the used market. Well, yes, in a lot of the used market, I've been searching for wheels to basically refurbish and replenish bikes that I've been currently working on, also tune-ups as well. But here lies an issue. As a general consumer, you don't know what to look for in a wheel set. There is so much that can be wrong with that wheel set. A bad hub, bad spoke tensions, the rim might be dinged or compromised. You do not know. And even as an expert as myself, I do miss a few wheels as I've actually previously inspected until I tear them down, get them in the proper light and so forth. Therefore, there's a hidden mystery there. Also, if you have an older steed in your stable that you love riding and you want to like keep it going, and you're looking for that combination of, let's say, 11-speed rim brake wheel, in this case, with this Trek, man, they are not to be found. And with that being said, very limited options out there. Looking at Bicycle Wheel Warehouse, basically a huge breath of fresh air to me, because knowing that custom building wheels in my setting is really not a very profitable venture that I want to dive into, but I still want to have those particular qualities available, and lo and behold, I have this option. Well, looking over their website, working with the individuals at Bicycle Wheel Warehouse and customizing a wheel set for this particular customer, we have an excellent set of wheels brought in. Let's check out this gem of a wheel set that we had custom built. I can't tell you how excited I am to have a wheel set featured like this. These are pretty phenomenal. Well, the custom build on these were the customer wanted Ultegra hubs, 11-speed, which is a lot hard to find because a lot of things is transitioning over to disc brakes at this particular time. Therefore, a little bit higher to find that 11-speed wheel set that's just a rim brake. So he wanted Ultegra, and also he wanted bladed spokes, which is another kind of a hang-up when you're trying to look for either used wheels or even new, because the quantities are very limited there. In addition to a stronger rim. This individual rode 20,000 miles on this bike and he wants to get another 20,000 out of it. Therefore, he really wants a really strong wheel set. And that being said, I was like, okay, let's find you the strongest wheel set that's available. And with Bicycle Wheels Warehouse reached out to me and they said, hey, we can do something pretty awesome. And they do have quite a few rims and wheel sets in the 700C rim brake, which is either already laced up, which all their wheels are laced up regardless if they're prefab or custom built. And in addition to the quality of these is pretty phenomenal. Looking at the actual trueness right out of the box is pretty much spot on. And in addition to the spoke tensions on the spokes, drive side, non-drive, as well as front wheel is actually spot on as well. This particular rim that when I was doing conversations back and forth, he talked me into a little bit more stiffer, stronger wheel rim that they had in stock versus the one I was currently looking at for this particular customer, because he's a little heavier rider like myself, which a lot of us are, and went a little bit stronger wheel set. This is a 32 spoke wheel versus your 24-20 combinations on the little bit higher end. Well, the wheel sets he's actually gone through 2 sets of wheels on this one bike, so we want to get a little bit stronger wheel set on him. He's not too concerned about weight, although these are pretty lightweight, and I will show the weights listed below hung up. But in any case, getting a high quality hub, pick of your choice. You could have chose 105 or a different model or another brand, and then you could choose different speeds. If you have a 9-speed or a 10-speed hub system drivetrain on your old bike and you want to upgrade it, you can do that as well. And then you can get to still use the rim brake, and being brand new, this is going to give them lots and lots of miles going forward. Other impressive thing that I found with this is obviously it gives you the skewers and also a spacer that came with the hub, because if you wanted to switch this to 10-speed or 9-speed, you can, but this is the 11-speed hub. And they also include rim tape, the Velox rim tape, which is proved and known to choice of being one of the better qualities out there and known to be used for decades in bike shops. High pressure and so forth. This is not a tubeless system, but they do have tubeless systems available and other rims. This also puts me back in the day when we built wheels and when my dad would spend hours in the evenings lacing these things up at home to be trued up for the next day. They're just a telltale sign of that high quality of yesteryear being used in these particular wheels. Number one is the directional of the out bend spoke going forward on the direction of the wheel. So if the direction of the wheel is going this way, the bend of the actual J bend of the spoke is going in a forward direction. That is one. In addition to, second, when you look at the logo of the hub, which this case is Ultegra, it is lined up exactly with the Presta valve or the valve hole of the rim. So when you look into the valve hole here, you actually see the logo of the hub. Those are the two things that you look for when you're looking at custom wheel builds that are just a little more attention to detail over than any other wheels that are manufactured. And those manufacturings, they get thrown and laced up in a machine, they roll into this machine, they pre-tension all the spokes, and sometimes, not all times, but sometimes those machines get out of calibration, which they either over-tension or under-tension the spokes, which turns out to be a bad batch of wheels. Being a service manager and also a bike shop owner with my parents back in the day, yeah, we've seen those particular wheel batches that came out, they're not too great. Well, the attention to detail of these particular wheels that I've just seen from these guys, I'm thoroughly impressed. And well, I look very forward of ordering more wheels from them for other repairs and also some of my refurbished bikes going forward. But yeah, check it out. And the prices are actually not outrageous. So if you're looking for an upgraded wheel set or a stronger wheel set or what have you, custom wheel builds is definitely a direction to go. There are some companies out there that do a lot of the high-end stuff, which are nice, but yet if you have an older bike with a rim brake system, they actually have your back. And honestly, I was surprised to see on their website they have 27-inch rims too, like the classic wheels on the bikes that I've worked on from like the 80s. Therefore, hey, old bike that's collecting dust in the garage to be new wheels put on it and ready to go to ride. But in any case, the best upgrade to any bike that you have is usually starts with the wheels. Even though if you're looking for strength or lighter weight or performance, that's usually the first upgrade that anybody goes to on a bike. And it is a third of your bike and is one of the most important parts of it. But in any case, check out this wheel set on this awesome bike, and I'll do a little bit of a ride review when I do the test ride. It's supposed to be a little bit stiffer and more engaging than the Mavics that are on it currently now. Not to say anything bad about Mavics, but they've done their job and they've actually worn out, so time to retire those and on to the new. Well, there we have it. The wheels are installed. Check it out, Bicycle Wheel Warehouse. Thanks to these guys, they did a phenomenal job. Do a little recap of what I found by putting these all together. Coming out of the box was actually pretty well packed, protected, very convenient. The box was actually shipped pretty well, no major damage and so forth. So, shipping is one of those things that in any business, you're subjected to some kind of crushing at some point, but they have done a good job of packing it, so therefore it'll get to your location better fashion than some others. But in any case, well packed. Coming with the wheel set, actually had rim tape, which was a pleasant surprise. Typically that's something you have to buy as an aftermarket. And being built up by hand, the technical things they do to it is they prep the spoke threads On these particular spoke nipples with this rim, they have washers that negates the need of the eyelets of those particular rims. So it gives you that strength of the actual connection. The tension will stay true with that rim without loosening or tightening, and also those tensions will last a little bit longer. Knowing wheel building over the past years, I used to do a lot of it myself, could really admire the actual attention to detail that they did with the valve core hole lining up with the actual logo, facing the correct way, and also the radial lace or the 3-cross lace of the spokes going in a forward fashion. Those are the 3 main key components that we used to do when lacing up wheels. If we screwed up by not positioning it right on the rim, we would tear it all apart and start all over again. That was one of those situations where we would make sure we did it right, and then when we got better, we did it right the first time. But that's the attention to detail that these guys are actually putting into this wheel sets, which is kind of jaw-dropping, because I've seen a lot of wheels manufactured from basically the QBP or BTI or a J&B, from these wholesalers that we purchase wheels from, and they're usually machine made. You don't get any of those attention to details at all. On top of that, tensioning the spokes and truing it and then retensioning them, make sure everything settles, and retruing it to make sure all those tensions are correct. On the front wheel, you got the same tension on both sides. On the rear wheel, it's going to be a little bit different because the rear wheel has a spanned out area, longer spokes on the non-drive, shorter on the drive side. With a 32-spoked wheel on this particular design, it will give it a little bit stronger, and also for mechanics like myself, you don't have these massive gaps between. Well, this one's not a good example. You usually don't have massive gaps in between to try to manipulate that spacing, and with those 32-spoke holes, you can actually manipulate that rim and have a more structural sound. Number 1, stronger, and number 2 and number 3, easier to adjust and true. So in any case, these particular rims are actually their house brand. There's a little bit of aero to them. It definitely has a well-machined siding, high-class quality. I just have to say, these rims are actually really nice with the bladed spokes. They are double-butted, and with the Ultegra hubs, that this will be a one solid machine. The hubs match the actual componentry on it, so getting 11-speed was kind of tricky on this particular bike. I could have gotten used, but this individual rides a lot. But then again, the price on this almost negates that higher end used leftover. The problem with used is, well, several different things. One, the rim itself could actually be damaged, dinged, scarred. They may not with a rim bed where the actual brakes may concave, that actually wears that rim bed out. So the rim could be a whole lot of problems. Spoke tensions could be misaligned as well as bent, or some alloy nipples may be compromised if they're a combination of both. You really sometimes you can't tell until you actually get into the truing stand and start working on it. And in addition to, the rim itself may have some micro cracks, which this one did, and didn't really see it until I got in the right lighting and when it's cleaned up. So there lies a couple different problems with actual used wheels, and the bottom line is those hubs, you just never know how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of miles, kind of stretching there, on those particular hubs. Obviously you want it to feel smooth, but then again, you really don't know how long those hub bearings have been in there, or if they've been repacked or serviced or adjusted correctly from the beginning. There alludes that general maintenance on them is very important to keep wheels to last a long time. But if you start off solid like these, we have seen in the years past when we hand laced our own wheels back in the day, they last a lot longer and support that rider for longer ventures or more ventures. So in any case, this particular wheel set is definitely a thumbs up from the guy. I can't say anything bad about them at all. And the price is, I mean, come on, custom built up and you're under $1,000, that's pretty awesome. But in any case, got a good relationship with these bicycle wheel warehouse in California. I will put a discount code below if you want to check them out to help that little price to get you enticed to take a look at some of their products. They have some pre-built wheels, and they also do a custom and several different models of theirs, so look out for that. And what's really kind of cool, they have a combination of different ones that are kind of unique niche. They're kind of falling off the technological radar of the newer bikes, because you got 650 wheels, they have those. 27-inch, which I was very surprised. So if you have a really classic from the 70s and 80s and you need a good wheel set for those, you can go there too. And then they have obviously the disc brake, the carbons, the newer mountain bike styles and so forth as well. But a company that actually is sticking to the old wheel sets and actually the old philosophies of building good solid wheels for today's riders is a win-win in my book. But in any case, thanks for hanging out with me. Check out how this bike rides and check it out in the sun. Maiden voyage. Woo boy. Yes, this has new wheels, wax chain, new crank set, new brake pads, then new cables and housing throughout, bearings in the bottom bracket. So this has a whole bunch of new on it, and including new bar tape as well. And you can tell the cockpit on this is actually kind of an aggressive position. This guy's had this bike for quite some time and has put a lot of miles on it. So let's see how this thing feels. Whoa! Gonna go through the gears light and polite. This is the freshly waxed chain. Needs about 5 miles worth of brake in for its highest performance. But we'll check the gears, make sure we're hitting all of them right on the endpoint. Got 11 in the back, 2 up front, so it is a 22 speed. And there's somebody that's not having a good ride. Sorry, the background. Yeah, awesome feel. Get that front derailleur to shift up. Yeah, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Alrighty. So the stiffness of the wheels will be a little bit of improvement. Actually accelerating really fast. Man, rides on rails. Yeah, boy. I think we got a winner on this one. Smooth new tread. Has a good feel to it. Yeah, boy. Watch out for cars, make sure they don't run me over. Acceleration. For this particular design, be less flex of the actual wheel itself. So more efficiency, more into the actual drive. Yeah. Hopefully this is one amazing ride. Wow. Well, there we have it. The Trek SL. Basically 2/3 of the bike have been replaced, but it is going to be a brand new ride for him. Hopefully it gives him another 20K of miles on it. Beautiful in the sun. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. And again, you want to look at any of these parts, I have links below, descriptions, and other details. So thanks again for hanging out with me in the garage. Until next time, on to the next repair.